This video is part of the Road2 Advanced Terrain Modeling group exercise on creating a terrain by mesh. Okay, so this is the second video for creating an advanced terrain model. Okay, it asks in step 1 to open up the corridors file. I'm already in that corridors file, so you'll want to open it up. I'm going to zoom in for the next one. Next steps is what you want to do is you want to come into your intersection here, and to create a mesh, and what a mesh is a Microstation element that we can actually extract a terrain by using this, and it's set with our design stage. So what you want to do is you want to go to your corridors and then your radius returns and change it to design stage. So in step 2 it says we're going to change it to a final top mesh. So we'll select the AC corridor, go to our properties, and in design stage you're going to hit that pull down, and you're going to see that there's several design stages in here. We're looking for the one that's final with meshes, or excuse me, final top mesh. That's what we want. You can see it's grayed out. That's okay. It's in the Dgn lib. What we want to do is copy it into the Dgn file, and the way you do this is just by selecting it. So even though it's grayed out, you go ahead and select it. It's going to process, as you can see in the bottom right, it's going to process our corridor to match that design stage that we just chose. The template drops will get much closer. If I click off on a blank area, you can see the color of the handle has changed from green of preliminary to a final red color. Now if I go back to properties and I look at the design stages, you'll see that now it's black. So once it's been introduced into the Dgn, then you'll have that option. So I'm going to go ahead and select the TG corridor, get my properties. It's at preliminary. We want to change it as well, and you can see now that the final top mesh is in our Dgn file, so we'll go ahead and select it, and we'll let this process. It takes a much less longer time, much less time, because of the fact it's a lot smaller of an alignment. We want to do the same thing on the radius returns. I can see they're yellow here on the handles. We want to change that, so we're going to select the first one. For linear templates, it's a little different. But what we're looking for is final top mesh. So that's number 3 on this one. And you'll select it. When I click off on a blank area, you can see now it has the red handles to it. So that's an identifier to help out with knowing what design stage it's on. And we'll do the last radius return. We'll change that one as well. So now we have a mesh out here that we will be able to extract a surface from. Okay, so that's what we need to do in step 2. Nothing big, but you can see the 3D file, what you have over here on this side. This is what the mesh looks like, and this is what we're going to be extracting. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to open up the next file in step number 3, which is the terrain proposed. So if I do a file, it's the second one down on my list, number 1. I can select it. I will check in my changes. I want it to do the changes, save my changes, so I'll check it in. And you can see that you have a terrain or a surface already out here from the previous chapter that we ran. So what you could do is we're going to delete it. All this hard work we did, we're going to just go ahead and delete it. So you can do it a couple different ways. You can get it from the heads-up display, do a delete. You can do a window around it and hit the delete, Microstation delete. However you want to get rid of it, but you know, we want it empty. The next thing I want to do before I process any surfaces is I'm going to go to the file pull down, and I'm going to go down to compress. Every time you do something in Microstation, whether you create something and then you delete it, it records it, so the files can get rather large. So compressing them helps keeps it a lot smaller than what it can get to. Okay, so once that's done, that brings us to step number 4, And in here, we're going to again reference in our corridors file. We want the default 2D file, our view. And there's some notes in there. If the corridors 3D view is not automatically referenced in, yes, so we need to bring in our existing ground. Let's see. So we're going to go ahead and go up to our reference dialog, do a tools, attach, and we're going to bring in our corridors and our terrain existing. We'll add those in, hit the OK button. OK on both of those. And then I'm going to zoom out a little bit and make sure my terrain existing is active. Okay, it's not, so now I'm going to set it as active. And when you do that, you should have got a 3D model of our corridor. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'll close this out. And when I open back up the reference dialog, you can see now the corridors default 3D has been made available. Okay, so that was step 4. Step 5 says that we need to select the top mesh elements using the element selection tool and the control key to select 4 mesh surfaces. We only need 4 mesh surfaces. So we're going to zoom into our area here where we have the intersection of all 4 elements. And we're going to use our element selection tool. And if we do an individual and a plus, we're able to select the 4 top meshes. Okay, so we should see 4. We should be good. Now what we're going to do is move on to step number 6, and it does say in step 5a, verify that only 4 items are in the selection set. You can see again down here at the bottom the element selection. We have 4. Now it's time to move into the Create from Elements tool, which is on our tasks, back in the terrain modeling group, and Create from Elements is right around here. So the 5th tool over, Create from Elements. And this dialog has some information. What type of feature do we want it to be? We want a break line. We have other options in there. Break line's pretty good for this. We want to use it. Edge method, we have it set to remove slivers, so we can do that. The feature definition we're going to use is design triangles. So we're going to come down and change that to design triangles. And it gives us a default name of design triangles, but we want to add to it from mesh. Okay. And I like to enter that in so it sticks with it. So now we're going to go ahead and accept our entries. So we data point to add the 4 selected elements. And we tell it what break type or what type feature type we're going to use, which is a break line. We accept our remove slivers option. And you can see it comes out and it builds this surface for us. We're finished with the tool, so we'll go ahead and hit F4. We want to detach our reference files. So we'll go back up to the reference icon. Tools, detach all. And we'll get rid of all of them. Of course, it's going to give us this error, or informational, that it has dependencies. We just want to use the surface, so we're just going to say yes to all these and get rid of it. I'll close this out, and you can see now we just have a surface created by that design stage features, or design stage final top mesh. Now we need to clean it up, so I'm going to go to check off number 7. We've done that. Again, we can rotate the file and see what we have here, so let's do that. come over to the rotate tool. I will move the crosshair and make sure it snaps to an element. Allows me to zoom in to that element, and then I'll just left click and hold and move my mouse around, and I can see that the surface has been created. And it's got my ditches on there, got my roadway, my slopes, all good. Okay, so step number 9 says we use the Edit Terrain Model tool to clean it up, and we want to, step 10, remove all false external triangle legs. So to do this, I like to go back to that top view and do a fit view. And again, there's a lot of different ways to clean this up. You can come in here and we can say that task tools, go back to our terrain, edit terrain model tool, which is in the second row, and I'll go ahead and open this up a little bit more. So it's this one that has a mesh. It looks like a little bitty, looks like a monkey wrench. So I'll select it, and you can use all these different options. The one that I like the best is delete triangle by line, which allows me to go out and it's asking me to select a terrain model. So if I come down here and look at the status bar, it lets me, I go out and select a terrain model, then I can just drag a line across everything and it'll go out. But the thing that happened here is that nothing got edited, and the reason it didn't is because in step number 8 it was also saying to use the terrain modeling tools or heads-up display and remove the rules. You can't edit a terrain model until you do remove the rules. So we'll come out, we'll get rid of our rules. Now we're going to go back to that same tool, select our terrain, and then drag a line across it and let go of it. And you can see it's going to go remove those triangles that don't need to be in there. And you'd go around to your terrain, and a lot of places you can clean this up. And again, another way to do it, if you can give it a good edge method by selecting the terrain and going to max triangle length, and you see it gets rid of all your edits. It comes back, but in here you can change it to max triangle length and give it maybe 75, and it'll tighten it up. Now there's still be some stuff in here that you got to clean up, so maybe going a little tighter, but you got to be careful on how much you go, because you'll start seeing things disappear. Go even tighter. So we're getting kind of close. And then if I go to even tighter than that, at some point you'll get in so tight that it'll start taking away your triangle. So it just depends on what you're looking at and what you want to do on here. So that looks pretty cleaned up. We're good. Step number 11 has us exporting this surface to Land XML. So to do that, you just highlight the terrain, get your heads-up display. You'll see that there's an export terrain model option, and what we want to do is export this to Land XML. Okay, so you can do a select terrain by picking on it, or you can pick it from this pull down, which is the design triangles from mesh, which we created. We'll select that. The format will be Land XML. We'll give it a project name of J9P3093. And our project description, we're going to call this AC corridor. Sure we are. AC corridor proposed terrain. And then we're going to export triangles only. You can export the features as well on both, but it will take a long time. So exporting triangles only would be a good option. So now all we have to do is go select everything. So let's see, enter export value, we'll say AC. And of course, project name, of course, me being in it has messed it up. So J9P03093, accept that. Description's fine. Triangles only, no wizard. It's going to populate it in ProjectWise. And this is, I'm going to go with the XML that it's created it, the data folder. I just want to verify it's in the correct folder. Perry 3093, perfect. Data. I'll hit save. And it processes. And it's wanting to check in our XML because it did populate it in ProjectWise. So I'm going to hit the F4 key. Go down to ProjectWise Explorer. I don't see it till I hit the F. Well, actually, I do see it. Design triangles for mesh XML. But you could, if you don't see it, and sometimes that happens with ProjectWise, you hit the F5. Now, maybe the new version of ProjectWise updates a lot better than the old version. So it's kind of nice to see it was in there without hitting the F5. Okay, there's some notes on this. It says the Create from Elements tool works with reference corridors. In other words, you don't need to be in the file of the 3D element for the tool to work. Mesh terrains do have rules back to the original corridor and template. When you remove the rules from the terrain model, you break the link to the corridor, which allows for editing of the surface, which we showed. We didn't remove the rules. We tried to edit some triangles. It didn't work. We removed the rules, edited the triangles. They worked. And that's how you create that XML. So that concludes chapter, or the video for the Create Terrain by Mesh.